Welcome to the Explainer. So have you ever written a piece of code and suddenly realized you need to keep track of just a massive amount of related data, like not just one or two names, but maybe an entire school's worth of students or thousands of financial transactions? How do we store all of that efficiently without completely losing our minds? Well, that is exactly the fundamental programming problem we're conquering today.
Picture this. You're building a program to store and process 100 test scores for a class. Are you honestly going to sit there and type out score 1, score 2, score 3, all the way down to score 100? Declaring 100 individual variables is frankly a complete coding nightmare. It's incredibly clunky, it's highly prone to typos, and it makes your code practically impossible to manage or update later on. Clearly, we need a much smarter, much more scalable solution.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll officially meet the one-dimensional array. Second, we'll look at the syntax for array declaration and indexing. Third, we'll cover populating arrays dynamically. And finally, displaying that data using loops.
All right, Section 1. Meet the one-dimensional array.
Think of an array as this brilliantly structured container. Instead of 100 scattered variables just floating around in your program's memory, an array gives you a single unified name for a continuous block of memory. The mental model I absolutely love to use for this is a row of connected mailboxes. An array is literally just like this row of mailboxes. They all hold the exact same type of mail, maybe they all hold integer numbers or they all hold text strings. And to make sure the mail goes to the right place, every single mailbox has a strict sequential number painted right on the front. That specific number is what we call its index. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that index works in practice. Let's take an array named our names. And by the way, we use that lowercase arr prefix as a standard naming convention. If we want to access the name Joyce, we don't need a totally separate variable called student2. We just look at index 2 of our container, because our names bracket 2 points directly to Joyce. Index 4 points directly to Andile. The index number directly and perfectly corresponds to the specific string value stored in that exact slot.
Moving right along to Section 2, array declaration and indexing.
Now, just like any standard variable, an array actually has to be explicitly declared before you can use it. The syntax here has three crucial parts. First, you declare your variable name, followed by a colon and the reserved keyword array. Second, right inside square brackets, you define the absolute size of the container by stating the start index, 2 dots, and the last index. So for example, 1.10 or even a.j. Finally, you define the data type. And the absolute golden rule here is that whether you choose string, integer, or real, every single element inside this specific array must be of that exact same data type.
But hey, what happens if you build 10 mailboxes and you try to shove a letter into mailbox number 11? Your program crashes. This generates what's known as a range check error. It happens anytime you try to access an index position that simply doesn't exist. Now, to protect yourself from these super frustrating bugs, Delphi has a great feature. By adding bracket $R plus bracket in the implementation section of your code, you instruct the compiler to actively perform range checking. It's this fantastic safety net that warns you if your code ever tries to step outside the bounds of your array.
Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds, populating arrays dynamically.
So, the most basic way to fill an array is through manual assignment. We can manually assign values to specific index positions one by one. For instance, setting ARR names bracket 1 to Arhan. You're essentially manually walking up to mailbox number 1 and putting the string Arhan inside. Now, while this works perfectly fine for small, fixed lists, like the days of the week, maybe names of specific schools, it definitely doesn't solve our 100 test scores problem. Doing this 100 times manually, still a complete nightmare. Fortunately, there's a much, much more powerful way. I'm going to guide you through a major coding power-up. We can dynamically fill the array using a loop combined with an input box. Here's how it works. Step 1, you initialize a for loop with a counter variable, typically I. Step 2, inside that loop, you trigger an input box to actively prompt the user to type something in. Step 3, you assign that user input directly to the array at the current index using bracket I. So as the loop spins 1, 2, 3, 4, it automatically asks for data and slots it perfectly into the next available space. You literally just turned 100 manual lines into 3 lines of highly efficient code. Which brings us to the payoff in Section 4, displaying data using loops. Now, what's really interesting here is directly contrasting the clunky hard way with the elegant automated smart way. If we want to display 5 scores, method 1 requires 5 individual mem display lines, individually calling our scores 1, 2, 3, and so on. But then you look at method 2. We wrap the exact same display command inside a simple for loop from 1 to 5, and we just call airscores bracket I. It is brilliantly concise. The crazy part, even if you had thousands of elements, method 2 still only requires those exact same 2 lines of code.
So the absolute crucial point is this. Each time the loop counter is incremented, it points to the next element in the array. I really want to cement this aha moment for you. The loop counter variable I perfectly, magically matches the array's index. When the loop starts, I is 1, so you grab the data in mailbox 1. When the loop steps forward, I becomes 2, and you instantly grab the data from mailbox 2. Because they lock together so perfectly, automating your data display is completely effortless.
You know, you have just unlocked a massive coding superpower. You can now create a structured container, dynamically fill it with thousands of pieces of data using just a few lines of code, and automate the display of all that information instantly. You have officially mastered the fundamentals of one-dimensional arrays. But here is a final thought to leave you with. Now that you have, say, 1,000 test scores stored effortlessly in your new array, how do you actually find one specific score? If you need to quickly locate the highest mark or verify if a specific name exists in that massive list, how do you do it without manually reading every single line? Well, that's a whole new challenge, and it's exactly the kind of puzzle you'll want to solve next.